Hello, my name is Patrick Blevins, and today I'll be talking about parasitic animals. What is parasitism? Parasitism is a symbiotic relationship between species where no one organism, where one organism, the parasite, lives on or in another organism, the host, causing it some harm, and it is adapted structurally to live this way. Parasites include protozoans such as the agents of malaria, sleeping sickness, and amoebic dysentery. Animals such as hookworms, lice, mosquitoes, and vampire bats. Fungi such as the honey fungus and the agents of ringworm, and plants such as mistletoe and dodder. Parasitism is a type of symbiosis. Um, Unlike commensalism and mutualism, the relationship harms the host, either feeding on it or, as in the case of intestinal parasites, consuming some of its food. Because parasites interact with other species, they can readily act as vectors or pathogens causing disease. So there are different ways to classify these parasites. They can be based on their size, they can be based on their characteristics, and they can also be based on their relationship with their host. So I'm going to go over a couple of the ways they are classified. Obligate parasites depend completely on the host to complete its life cycle. If an obligate parasite cannot obtain a host, it will fail to reproduce. Over time, they have evolved so they can no longer exist without the existence of the host. This means that you will usually not cause serious enough harm to the host as the parasite needs it to survive. The exception to that would be if the host's death is needed for transmission of that parasite. Obligate parasitism can be found in many different types of organisms, like plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, and viruses. An example of that would be head lice. If you remove head lice from the human scalp, the lice will die quickly after that. Facultative parasite is an organism that may resort to parasitic activity, but it doesn't necessarily rely on it or rely on any host for completion of its life cycle. They can survive without the host and only sometimes perform parasitic activities. Certain plants, fungi, animals, and microbes can be facultative parasites. Uh, Parasites can also be classified by where they are at on the host, where they attach to the host. So ectoparasites, ecto meaning outside, live on the outside or the skin of the host. Some examples of that would be ticks, mites, or spiders. Endoparasites, looking at that prefix endo, would mean inside. So parasites found within the body of the host. They can be in the blood, the tissue, or even the gastrointestinal tracts. And then I listed some examples of that with nematodes, trematodes, cestodes, or protozoa. And then lastly, as far as where you find the parasites, how they're classified, mesoparasites. So these parasites are only partially embedded in their host. Example I put would be copepods. Uh, they're going to enter the openings of their host either like through the ear canal or where they excrete waste from, somewhere like that. They're only going to be partially embedded. And then I get into six different types of classification or how these are classified through their characteristics. So the first one I'm going to talk about is hyperparatism. Hyperparatism takes place when one parasite feeds on another parasite. A good example of this would be the parasitoid wasp. Parasitoid wasps will infect a caterpillar. They'll inject their eggs in there. The host will leave in there, and then they'll eat their way out. But while they're in their larva stage, these other parasitic wasps are their biggest predator. They'll come in and do the same to an actual parasitic wasp. So hyperparasitism is just simply a parasite parasitizing or feeding on another parasite. Social parasitism is social parasites take advantage of interspecific interactions between members of social animals such as ants, termites, and bumblebees. So this is going to happen with these social animals, these ones that live in a colony. They have a social interaction. There's going to be living in a group. Brood parasitism is pretty cool. The cuckoo bird's a good example of this. The cuckoo bird will search out, find nest, and then they will lay their eggs in the nest of a different species of bird. And then they will get that species to raise their child as their own. So the host acts as parents, and they raise the young as their own. And then those a lot of times those parasitic birds will push out the other eggs of uh, of that species of bird, and so they'll be the only one there getting all the food and nutrients. Kleptoparasitism, if you look at that word front prefix klepto, it's like a kleptomaniac, somebody that steals, and that's exactly what it is. Kleptoparasitism is a form of feeding in which one animal takes prey or food that was caught, collected, or otherwise prepared by another animal, including stored food. So they're stealing their food after another animal has caught it or prepared it or saved it up. Excuse me. Sexual parasitism is unique to the anglerfish. So these anglerfish are really, really tiny. It says the males uh, of the species are much smaller than the females, and they rely on the females for food and protection from predators. The males give nothing back except the sperm, which the females need in order to produce the next generation. So you can see on that picture, the little top picture, the little thing on the top back of the fish, that's the male. And then the bottom picture, it's actually zoomed in. So you can see that big size difference. And then the last one, as far as characteristic wise, adelphoparasitism is also known as sibling parasitism. So it's occurring in between where these parasites are parasitizing hosts of the same species or ones that are at least in the same family or genus. So it's occurring between interspecies or same family or genus. And then this gets me to my parasitic fish. Just want to talk about it for a couple slides, give you an example of one of these parasitic animals. The kangaroo fish is also known as the toothpick fish or the vampire fish. It's a species of parasitic freshwater catfish in the family um, of Trichomectridae, native to the Amazon and can be found in countries like Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Although the kangaroo species can grow up to 40 centimeters or 16 inches, others are considerably smaller. These smaller species are actually a little more terrifying because they're known for an alleged tendency to invade and parasitize the human urethra. Yeah, so that's kind of scary. So if you're in the Amazon, don't pee in the water. They have a rather small head and a belly that can appear distended, especially after a large blood meal. The body is translucent, making it quite difficult to spot in the turbid waters of its home. There are short sensory barbels around the head together with short backward pointing spines on the gill covers. So if one of these fish did get up into the human urethra, it would not be able to get out, couldn't turn around, it wouldn't be able to back out because of those barbels and those spines on the gill covers. So it's going to be in there just eating away until it dies or it's surgically removed. Um, Kangaroo fish are parasitic. They can detect the waste excreted by other fish's gills and follow the trail to find their prey. Rather than eating fish, they use barbs on their gill covers or opercula to wedge themselves under the opercula of their victim. They bite. They then bite into an artery in the gills and drink the fish's blood. That's how they get their name, vampire fish. And they can completely gorge themselves with the blood in as little as 30 seconds. So there's only been a few cases of the kangaroo fish actually swimming up the human urethra, but that would not be a fun thing to happen. So this fish is pretty scary. All I have left here are my references. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I know it kind of is scary to think about. So if you're ever in the Amazon, try not to pee in the water. Thank you.